it's Tia. Thank you for joining me. If you're new here, welcome, and if you're one of my little Monets, welcome back. Today I'm doing a huge review on my Cargo. Look at all my Cargo eyeshadow palettes. If you are interested in finding out more about Cargo shadows, what is good, what you should get, what you shouldn't, this is the right video. Stick around and let's just get right into the review. Okay, so the first one we're going to talk about is the Essentials palette here. And just like the other ones, there's 12 shades. So let's go through the shades. Let's get my little pointer. So this shade right here is Uptown, District, City Hall, Urban, and Rush Hour. Plaza, Downtown, Industry, Metro, Brownstone, Hub, and Facade. This palette has 7 mattes, one that I would call more of a satin, 2 shimmer, and 1 glitter infused in here. So the shade here called Industry, although it's really beautiful, I actually do like it on the skin. You can even see, right here that there's actually some fallout on my skin here. And that was there's a lot of glitter fallout on that shade. So this Rush Hour shade here takes quite a bit of building to get it to that color, which isn't, for my skin tone, even that dark and opaque. And then also the shade here, Plaza, these 2 mattes, they take a lot of building up. Now if you're newer with makeup, that might be a good thing because, you know, you're not going to be like going ham, but for someone like me, like, I just pack it on, and I don't mind blending to get the right look, but I don't need to like keep going in for the opaqueness and the pigment and the opacity. The shades Brownstone, which is the brownie shade here, and the shade Facade, so these 2 darker sort of matte colors are very patchy, like very patchy. And then City Hall and Urban, which are these 2, are basically the same. Honestly, there's not too much dimension at all, so they're not going to look much different on the eyes. Overall, I don't hate this palette. The shades that I really like are more of the shimmer shades, like this District right here, Industry, Hub. It's not worth keeping for that. Who do I think this would work for? I think this would work for someone who is newer to shadows because, like I said, the mattes take a little bit of building. The thing is, like, some of these are more, they look matte, but they have sort of a satiny sheen. And I just don't like that type of shadow. So for me, I'm going to declutter this one out of my collection. Okay, next up is the Cargo Cosmetics, the collaboration they did with Star Wars The Last Jedi. They had a dark side palette and a light side palette. This was the dark side palette. It came with 8 shades. This got hard pan because, like, I sprayed right in the pan. I never do that. I don't know what the issue was. I love the packaging. It's like textured, glittery. So for that, I love the packaging. So let's go. The shades are not named. They're just numbered. And so these are the shades here. This was like the worst swatch, but these are the shades, and this is how they look on the skin. It's overall pretty cool toned, and this one here is like an army green, which doesn't show up too well. In the 8 shades, 2 of them are shimmers, and the rest are mattes, but they're all glitter infused mattes, which isn't horrible. I actually used this palette and I enjoyed this quite a bit. I find that it's not a standalone palette, but I also don't have many palettes with this sort of smoky color scheme. So this one I am going to hang on to. I do like the textures. I think the mattes are nice. I think for sort of a cool tone smoky look, it would be really nice. And so this one I'm going to keep. So if you do see this one, it was limited edition, but I do see it pop up here and there. This one I would say I would recommend. Okay, next up we have the You Had Me at Aloha palette. I was actually super excited about this palette. It has the customary 12 shades. It's got sort of this purpley situation going on. There's this amazing yellow color in here and a teal. Honestly, I had set this aside to do the review for so long that I forgot about this, so I'm actually going to be excited to use this. If you want to see a tutorial using this palette, I'll put a poll right up here and you can let me know and then I'll film it. So let's talk about the shadows in here. There are 12 shadows, 6 of them are shimmer and 6 of them are matte. They stay pretty true to the matte. Cargo tends to get a little weird and puts like a satin type situation in, but I don't find that to be the case really in this palette. So let's go through the shades. So right here we have Aloha, Waikiki, Hapuna, Kona, Shell, Shaka, Hibiscus, Island, Kwai, Tiki, Lei, and Luau. So you can see it really has sort of this like cool tone, purpley, bronzy, shimmery kind of feel going on. I would say that my favorite shade in here is Island. It looks gold in the brownish in the pan, but it is this weird like duochrome and it has sort of like a red undertone. If you can see on here, it's right here. It has like a reddish goldish shift. It's sort of just a rose gold color. I think this one here is absolutely beautiful, this Shaka. It's just a great fuchsia color. The yellow, which is Hibiscus, I love the shade. I'm really like dying for some yellow shades. It is a little bit hard. It does take some building up. I love the teal color. I honestly forgot I had this palette and I've been really wanting this color scheme, so I'm glad that I did this video now because I want to wear this. I do notice that the formula on this particular palette is a lot softer and smoother and more buttery, so I definitely recommend this palette. Okay, so the next one we have is the Venice eyeshadow palette. Again, it's 12 shades in here. This palette has 9 shimmers in them. It's definitely more of a shimmery type palette. The shimmers are best applied with the fingers, so that's just an FYI. There's 3 glitter infused mattes. Canal here. Magic. Carnival. That's going to be your glitter infused matte. Mirando, Gondola, Mask, Gilded, Rialto. This is a very chunky shadow. This would need some fixed plus or some kind of mixing medium. Lido, Lagoon. I just love that army green type shade. Bridge. And Palazzo. I would say that I actually am going to hang on to this. I do love all of these shimmery shades. I think they look very beautiful. My only issue is that it is pretty much a shimmery palette, which is fine because it's not like I have a huge collection. But if you didn't have a huge collection, you would either need, if you were going to have this palette, you would want definitely a companion matte palette in order to sort of anchor the look. You do have Carnival here, which is a true matte, but some of the shades might not pair that well. Canal and Mask. So these two on the end here, Canal and Mask, they definitely take a little bit of building up to get the color that you're looking for. Like I said, this Rialto is super, super chunky, and there's a lot of glitter fallout, as well as the Palazzo too. And the only sort of disappointing shade in this palette is going to be your Rialto, just because it looks really great, but once all the glitter falls out, it's like that whole Too Faced, you know, Too Faced was with the glitter infused mattes, like they were crazy with them for a long time. They just, mattes and glitter don't go together. How you sticking together? Why you keeping up? You're going over here, you're going to this bar, you're going to this bar, like what's happening? You can't stick together, all right? So the whole glitter infused matte thing was, hopefully is going to be done, because that needs to be done. We need to be done, okay? But this palette I think I'm going to hang on to. I really love the shimmers. They do perform well. Like I said, they're best with the finger. But this is definitely one that I would recommend. I'm not sure if this is still available or not. This is the Venice eyeshadow palette, but if you see it, or if someone wants to give it to you, this would definitely be one that I would recommend. Alright, next up is the Emerald City eyeshadow palette, which is more of a recent palette. I believe this was holiday, there's just this past holiday time or winter time. It has your customary 12 shadows, and that's what they look like. Oh, the packaging's super reflective. It's got sort of this like cool tone green scheme going on, which I really love the color story in this palette. I really, really do. There's 8 shimmer shades, there's 4 mattes, and one of them is like that goofy satin matte thing that they like to do, but I can be okay with it in this palette. The shimmers do apply well with a brush, they're better with the fingers, and the mattes are pretty workable, especially Coffee, which we'll go over. I did notice a difference, like in the last couple palettes, they're really stepping up some of their formulas, which I'm happy to see. So let's just go through the shades. This one here, this pretty shimmery champagne color is Northwest. This matte here is Fairy. This matte is Space Needle. This shimmery bronze color is Yakima. Seaport, this is a matte. The Hill, gorgeous green shimmer. Lake Union. Pier 52. Pike Place. Coffee, that was one, you can see it's a tiny bit patchy. It's workable, it needs a little building, but it definitely, it blends pretty well. Mount Rainier, which is another green shimmery shade, and then Fremont, which is this dark green shimmery shade. So those are those. I really do enjoy this palette. I'm going to hang on to it. I think overall, and I'll get into my final thoughts, but I think overall these are great palettes, especially for someone who's more just starting, because the mattes do take just a little bit of building up, but they're blendable. You know, you're not going to end up screwing everything up because you went ham. You know, I like to go ham. I also think that the color payoff for the shimmers is amazing. You know, you could really just go in with one of these matte colors in the crease, even Coffee, and then all over the lid with one, and you're done. So this one is a keeper. The next one is the Getaway palette, and a lot of these palettes you can get at sort of like TJ Maxx, Marshalls, things like that. This was a more recent palette as well. It's got your standard 12 shadows in it. It's definitely more of a cool toned color scheme. I have noticed that they really like the whole cool tone thing, which is funny because so many people are like, oh my gosh, I want cool toned eyeshadow palettes, and Cargo does them very consistently. There are 12 shades in here. 6 of those are shimmer shades, or sort of like a metallic. 5 would be matte, and then 1 is a glitter infused matte. Really? Okay. So let's just start here. This is Road Trip, Journey, Luggage, Route, which is a matte shade, Passport, Flight, Map, which looks way more taupey than it does in the pan. Tour, Resort, here's your glitter infused matte. Vacation, Traveler, sort of a taupey shimmer, and Highway. In these colors, I would say, again, I mean, I really love this color scheme. Especially you have like the whole Norvina palette coming out and things like that. I think it's interesting that some of these color schemes have already been out, but you know, it is what it is. With my lights, it does not like. Map, which is that sort of taupey color. That took a little bit of building up on the eye. Map, which is this sort of glitter infused shade, that does have some fallout. And the one sort of dud is this Highway shade. It really takes a lot to build up and there's not a lot of pigmentation. I am going to hold on to this because I do love the color scheme. This is a newer palette. Again, if you want to see tutorials using these palettes, I'll put a poll up and I will film them if that's what you would like to see. The next one is a Wanderlust palette. You can also get this at TJ Maxx, Marshalls, things like that. You have the 12 shades in here. 6 of them are shimmers, 4 of them are mattes, and 2 of them, which is the Navigate and Voyage, those are going to be satin shades. This Desire color here is very, very interesting on the eyes. My big note for this palette is that the mattes are much better. So I feel like their quality is really improving. This one here is a matte and it's Discover, Wander, Travel. This sort of greeny type matte is a Festival, Light, Navigate, Explore, Curious, Voyage, Roam, Desire, and Dream, which is a dark purple color. Now that I'm like putting them all together, I have noticed that Getaway, Emerald City, and this Wanderlust really have the same sort of color scheme. It's gonna be sort of a purple greeny type situation there. So this one is Getaway, and then with Emerald City you have sort of these purple and greens down here, and you do have more neutral tones down here and some gold, so that's interesting. And then Wanderlust is going to have sort of the neutral, a little bit of purple or a little bit of green, and a little more purple, and you have this vibrant purple. So what I would suggest is I would recommend any of these 3. I think that, you know, they could actually pair very well. I think that they could actually pair very well together as companion palettes, but I think in general you don't need all 3 of them, maybe 2 if they can complement each other, but the quality of them is pretty comparable as well. So any of these 3 would be a recommend. Don't think you need all 3, but they would work really well together. Okay, and then the last 2 I have the Vintage Escapes palette. And this is again 12 shades. There's 1 satin, 6 sort of like metallic shimmer shades, 1 glitter infused shades, and 4 mattes. So it looks like this. I'll say right off the bat, this Frolic shade is an amazing shade. Amazing. This is Harvest Moon. This one really takes a lot of building up. There's not much pigmentation on that. And it's the same with this Cuddle shade. Frolic, I mean, that is an amazing, amazing shade. Cinnamon. Twigs, which is sort of a gunmetal type shade. Black Crow, which you can see, like, it is patchy. Patchy, patchy, patchy. Crisp. Hot Cocoa, which does not translate on the skin as dark as it is in the pan. Same with Autumn. Withered Leaves. Rustic. And Chestnut, which is also a very patchy shade. So this hot cocoa and the autumn shade, although they don't look like they do in the pan, they're still very nice matte shades. As much as I like the one shade, the truth of the matter is I don't use this very much. The color scheme isn't something that I'm really drawn to. Of course, I'm drawn to this sort of green shade, but as you could see in the other ones, there's plenty of green shades to choose from. I do really love the Frolic shade, but I don't want to keep an entire palette just for one shade, and honestly that's the only shade that I would feel like I would be missing anyway. So this one, I would say, if you have it, or if someone wants to give it to you, this to me one is a pass. I'm going to declutter this out of my collection. Again, I do think that Cargo shadows are really nice for people who are newer to eyeshadows, but in my collection, it's not going to be used. It's not special enough. I have a huge collection. And the last one is the Around the World palette from Cargo. This is definitely still at TJ Maxx and Ross. Again, you have your 12 shades. The interesting thing about this palette is it's like completely neutral. These top shades are basically the same. There are 3 mattes in this palette, there's 7 shimmers, and then there are 2 satin shades. You can see this whole top line is like pretty much the same. We have Rome right here, Paris, Tokyo, London, Amsterdam. All the same color pretty much, some just different finishes. And look, you got Rome, you got Tokyo, you got Amsterdam. They all have great vibes, great, like, no, they are not all 50 Shades of Beige, okay? They're not. So, calm down, calm down. Then we have New York, again a little bit beige. Shanghai, Moscow, Athens, Dublin, Madrid, and Toronto. The funniest part about this palette, I feel like Cargo dropped the ball on this, because I don't know what they were thinking when they're like, oh, let's name them Around the World, and they're all brown and beige. Like, what? I don't get it. Amsterdam is very beautiful when it is foiled. This shade here that's on my knuckle. Madrid is supposed to be a matte, which is this one, but it's more like a satin. I just don't like satin shades. Toronto is super patchy. You can even see that there. And Shanghai, although it's beautiful in the pan, it just is not pigmented because it shows up weird, and it's supposed to be a little bit warmer. Overall, this one's a pass. This is going out of my collection. I don't need a palette like this, and I don't like... The scheme's wrong. I mean, it's like I said, it's 50 Shades of Beige. It's not going to show up different on the eyes. I just don't need it. My final thoughts are, so out of the 9, I'm going to be keeping 6 and decluttering 3 of these. Like I said, the ones that I think can be skipped on would be the Cargo Around the World palette, the Vintage Escapes, which I think is discontinued anyway, and then the Cargo Essentials palette, which you can still get. I would say those are kind of a pass. The ones that I think are worth getting would be the Wanderlust palette, the Getaway palette, and the Emerald City palette. And though I recommend all 3 of these, I do not think that you need all 3 of them because they have similar color stories. I also think one that's really worth getting is the You Had Made Aloha palette. For me, it was good to have the Dark Side palette just because I don't have a lot of dark shadows, but I wouldn't necessarily, if you were just gonna get one, or if you have a larger collection, I wouldn't recommend this one. I'm gonna hold on to it. And then the last one was the Venice palette, which I do recommend as well. So if you have Cargo shadows that you love that I didn't feature, list them down below. If you have any other questions, if there's any like brands that you would like me to do this similar type of video on, again, let me know. If you're not one of my little Monets, please hit subscribe because I'd love to have you. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.